Hey everybody, PJ Riley, Lancaster Archery in our lab today, our lab video studio today, because we are going to do some adjustments for you. We've got a how-to video, so I'd like to get scientific for these videos. And what we're gonna do is we are going to show you how to customize your UV slider bow sight. All right, so UV slider. Super popular sight that many of you already have. We have a ton of these in stock. We've been selling them. We sell some every day. Only 10 of these in here. Hope we don't run out. The version that we have is gonna be single pin. That's how it's gonna come to you. So what we're gonna do today is we are gonna show you how you can make it a 2-pin. Also, you know, we've obviously heard folks say that they have an issue with the fiber brightness. So we're gonna show you potentially how to fix that, and then as well customize it. You know, as the sight comes to you, it's gonna have green in that top pin. That's what it's gonna have. Maybe you don't see green so well. You've got yellow, hunter orange, red to choose from, also green. So maybe you want a different color fiber in there. We're gonna show you how to do all that. Every one of these UV slider single pins, and you know, we've got them in standard mount, pick mount, and bridge lock as well. So the mounting system is gonna be different, but the pin cartridge is all gonna be the same. It's all gonna be the single pin. However, if you look closely in there, you're gonna notice that there is a hole where there would be a second pin. So if you have this sight, and you can have 2 pins, why wouldn't you want 2 pins? So we're gonna show you how to get that second pin in there so that you can, you know, increase the functionality of this sight. Whether you're using it just for tack or you're using it for bow hunting, whatever you're using it for, 2 pins are better than 1. So for this fiber swap, here's what you're gonna need. A UV slider sight, a pair of pliers, a razor blade, a torch, a bowl of water, 2 pieces of 15 thousandth ultra superflex fiber optic. All right, so before we start taking this apart to add in our new fiber, there's something I wanted to show you. So with the fiber optic, your enemy for transmitting light is sharp bends, cracks. If it cracks, you're only gonna transmit the light from that crack to the end of the pin. But sharp bends are bad too. You know, if you think of water flowing through a hose, if you coil the hose, you can coil it around. As long as there's no sharp bends, the water is gonna flow. But once you get like a 90-degree angle, you're constricting that water flow. That's kind of what happens with light transmission. So what I'm gonna show you, so for the folks who have had complaints about the visibility of the pins, I'm gonna show you how you can potentially fix that. And it starts with seeing how the fiber is loaded here in the pin cartridge. This is how it comes from the factory. And if you can see in here, the fiber goes through a little hole at the top, and then it comes straight down the back of that post. Now, that is gonna be the most secure way for your fiber. So if any sticks or anything were to come inside the scope housing, having the fiber pulled tight against the post is the most secure way to keep your fiber, but it's not the greatest for your light transmission. So there's give and take. What I'm gonna show you is a way to get the best light transmission out of it. But I wanted you to see how it comes from the factory, how they have it set up, so that you'll notice the difference the way I'm gonna do it. All right, now, gotta take this coat off. It's about to get hot in here. So your first step, you can see all this tubing wrapped around the outside. That is all just tucked in place right here. So if you can just take some, this is our end right there. I just wanna start unraveling it. So whatever I gotta do to get access to the tube, there you can see I pull that out. And what you're gonna wanna remember when you get to the end, because we're gonna reuse this tube, is that this end here has an angle cut. You want that to be at the very end. The other end's gonna have a square cut. So we're just gonna fish this all the way out. Okay, now we've gotten to the other end, and you can see this end is square. So we know that is gonna be the end that we're gonna thread the fiber through. So we're just gonna pull that off. Save that, obviously. And now we have our fiber. It's free. Now, something else to pay attention to is where this fiber comes through the bottom. You can see it down there on the, I'll call it the floor of the scope housing. So, from there are two tiny little holes that makes a hard U in the bottom of the pin. Again, that's to keep the fiber as protected as possible. So you're gonna actually, I don't know if you can see it, it's below the level here. You can just see a tiny little piece of fiber. That's where it's going through that U connection there. So just remember that. We're gonna feed it back through. An angled Allen wrench is a good tool for that. Yeah, there we go. And then back through again. So you can see this is our first, this is where the fiber goes through that hole. You can see I'm pulling it out. And now, all we have left is the pin head here. You can see I've pushed that through the front. So, but I want to show you something. We're going to feed the fiber through that, but notice how at the very end, it's pulled tight. We're going to show you how to get that. That's because the end is mushroomed. That's what the torch is for. We're going to show you that. So, there is our section of fiber. So you can see this is, well, let's measure it. Actually 13.5 inches is about what they have. What I got to replace it is I got 2-foot sections of green. I'm gonna use green in the top pin. And then the other one I used is Hunter Orange. So if you get Hunter Orange, don't be surprised if you look at it and say, that's red. It's exactly what I thought. But the red that they have, there's also a red color, is actually a little bit deeper than this. So this is what they call Hunter Orange, even though when it's set up, it's gonna look like it's red. All right, now that I got the fiber out, what we're gonna do is we're gonna flare the ends of our 2 pieces of fiber that we're gonna use. So you saw I have a torch. So that's how I like to do it, and I like to heat a thin piece of flat metal. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the fiber and just get it close to the metal, and it will mushroom out. Some people, I'm not gonna say you can't do it like with a lighter, you can. The problem is that lighter flame isn't flat. The heat's not coming off flat, it's got a funky shape to it. So what can happen is we wanna get this end as flat as possible. And I've just found when you use a flame, it doesn't necessarily heat the end evenly as I like. So again, hey, if you want to use a lighter, go for it. This is how I like to do it. I think you get a better flat end. And also, some folks like to use the very end of an Allen wrench, a bigger one than this. I found if you use a razor blade, you just have to heat it a lot less longer. This thing gets real hot very fast, so that's why I like that. So, safety at all times, of course, turning on your torch. That's what my water is for. So I'm gonna heat up this razor blade. Doesn't take long. What did I even do that for? I don't know how many seconds. And now I'm just gonna bring this in and get it close. And I don't know if you saw that end mushroom out, but it did. Take my other one, get a little more heat, push this close. And it mushroomed out right in the water. Turn this off. And now both of those ends there are flared out, which you'll see when I start threading it through our scope here. So, gonna take the green fiber, I'll go in the top. This is gonna be the hole right here. There we go. Pull right through to the end, and there. There's our mushroom. Does not allow it to go through. Again, take my hunter orange fiber, same thing. And there you go. You can see that we have our 2 pins in there. Just so you can see, you know, how that fiber glows. This is when the fiber is free. Look how much those pins light up. Super bright. Here's where you can get creative in what you want to do. If you're not concerned about sticks damaging your fiber, you know, the UV scope here, it's pretty enclosed. Something has to go past these 2 ends here. It's got to really get in there to damage this fiber. So ideally, the best thing you can do for the best fiber viewing is to go straight down through this hole. Bypass that little U joint at the bottom of the pin and go straight into this hole in the bottom. I'll just show you. It's hard to see. So now, that's how your fiber would be exposed. I just want people to be aware of that, because obviously they're exposed right there if something were to go in there. Are you worried about that? That's up to you. But that gives you, you're taking out that little U bend in there, which constricts the light gathering. And so, you know, if you put it in just like I showed you and now started to wrap it around, man, these pins are really gonna pop. But this is a hunting site primarily, so we are gonna go through the U bends there. So I'll just take these out. Okay, now, again, if you can see these 2 holes, I'm gonna go in the top one first. It's gonna make a U and come back around, come back out the bottom one. All right, so now you can see the fiber still sticks out a little bit. What my goal is to pull it snug without yanking on it. I would really have to put force on it to get it to go straight down. That's what I don't wanna do. So I'm just pulling with enough force to get this fiber in the natural position that it wants to go. So I've done that, which means I'm gonna have this much fiber kind of sticking out the back, as you can see. But now I gotta come around to the front. And now here's where that second hole is behind this level, which you can't see it, but you just gotta trust me, I'm going through that hole again. You'll know what I'm doing. I'll show it to you when it comes out the back. So there it is coming back out the back. Now I'm just gonna pull those fibers. I'm not using a ton of pressure, and eventually it will stop, which it did, which showed me that's the max amount of pressure I wanna use. Just to get that fiber as tight as it wants to go. I don't wanna make it any tighter than it wants to go. So I pull on each one individually, and eventually it stops, so that's where I'm gonna stop. And you can play with it a little bit, you know, what we don't wanna see is you don't wanna see the fiber, you know, sticking off to the side of the pin, off the back side, but you can finagle it to make sure that it is directly behind that pin and then you don't see it. Once we have done that, now we're gonna go back down through this hole. And now we're going to start with our tube. The key in all of this is not to force this fiber to do anything. What you want to do, again, right angles are your enemy here. So we want that to have nice, gentle bends in it just to avoid any of those issues. All right, now, if you'll remember, now we're going to go back to our tube. And one end is longer than the other. I'm just going to cut it to make them even. I guess my initial measurement was not quite right. But just for ease of working with them now. So I've got my square end of the tube, my flat end, so that's where I'm going to start. And so some folks may be wondering, hey, what if I just make this 19 thousandths? Well, for one, you won't be able to thread it through the pin, and two 19 thousandths fibers won't fit through this plastic tube either. So you got to stick with 15 thou. So I'm just feeding it through. You can see it came out the back, so I'm going to have to cut some anyway. All right, so first mistake here. You can see this center post there. I wasn't paying attention and I came out on the wrong side of it. I want to be on that side of it. So just going to take that off. So I'm going to fix that. Just put my fibers underneath there. Simple enough, just because this is how we want to run our tube. And so now we're going to go back into the tube. This is our square end and this is our angled end. So we want to start on the square end. And now we're just going to follow the track. And so you're going to start, where the fiber came out. So obviously you're going to start right here. Once you start wrapping, it'll be clear where you need to lay the tube into. Now, what I can tell you is where we want this tube is you want that end about right there. That's so that this end ends up in the right place in our wrap. So you want to shove that tube underneath this first divider here as we get going. As I'm going through, I'm just pressing this tube in to make sure it lays down within that track. Because this sits flush in each of these channels. It's designed for the tube to lay in them. If you ever see that you're pulling the tube in and you get like a little loop, just back it out and straighten that loop out, because what you don't want to have are kinks. Like right here, I'm just making sure that there's no kink going into each pull. Now, the key for me anyway is I want to make sure I get this tab underneath that last little divider there, just to hold everything securely into place. Good. So, if you don't make it, you may have to unwind it, go back and push this back a little bit, but I was able to get that under there. And then I can just cut my fiber. I'd probably leave a little bit. Too much fiber is never a bad thing, but I'm gonna cut it right about there. All right, now check that out. We just made our 1-pin sight into a 2-pin sight. Now, of course, one of the other issues is that you only have the one sight indicator there, sight scale indicator. However, you do have this one on this side. So in the pack, you're gonna get matching right hand and left hand sight tapes. So what you can do, what we found folks doing is they'll put, this is a right-handed sight, so I'm gonna put my right-handed tape on this side and my left-handed tape on this side. Now, on this side, you've got some options. You've got some room to move your metal sight tape that you stick the tape to up and down. You can move your indicator to get it set where you want. On this side, you don't. This this pointer right here is fixed. It's fixed on the vertical blocks. So you're gonna have to get creative in how you mount the sight tape on here. Obviously, we want to start all the way at the top. That's how we're gonna mount it. So you can do that set, for me, I'm gonna set it at 20. We don't know what that second pin is. You're gonna have to go outside and shoot it on your bow to figure out what it is. But then you've got a little bit of room with your metal sight tape over here. Of course, you can push the sight tape up, you can pull the sight tape down, whatever you gotta do. You can even cut it off. So if this is for your second pin, right? You can cut off the top. Let's say these pins for me are gonna be I'm gonna guess them to be about 20 and maybe between 30 and 40. We'll say like 37 yards. Let's say I'm at 20 and 37 yards. Okay, so on my left-handed tape, if this is gonna be the side where I mount my sight tape for my second pin, I don't need anything above 37 yards. That's where it's gonna start at. So if I have to over here, I can even cut off the top of my sight tape if that's what I have to do to get that pointer lined up. What I'm getting at here is how to get this pointer to match your bottom pin and this pointer to match your top pin, so that way you can have indicators for both of your sight pins. You're just gonna have to play around with that because, remember, this is supposed to be a 1-pin sight. We're making it a 2-pin sight. You can see how bright that fiber is now. And again, as I mentioned, maybe you want that hunter orange as your top pin. Maybe you prefer yellow. You've got some options there. What I'll say is you've got the choices for color are yellow, hunter orange, red, green, and blue. Stay away from blue. Only use blue if you're gonna use a light all the time. And as we know, this sight, as we're selling it from Lancaster Archery, comes without the light kit. The light kit is an add-on, which you certainly can do. But we wanna get that maximum brightness out of our pins without the light, and again, customize it. I've got green and hunter orange. You could have yellow and red if you want to. Pretty simple, that took us maybe 25 minutes here, but that's doing it for the camera. If you're doing it at home, it's gonna take a lot less time than that. My one key to it would be to just take your time working with this fiber. It's pretty flexible. As we mentioned, you can do a lot with this fiber. It's got flex in it, but nonetheless, just take your time. Don't force anything. If it feels like it's gonna bend or kink in a way you don't like it, just back it out and start over again. And that way you can get the most out of your UltraView UV slider. In the description below, I will put a link to this fiber. We sell it on our site. I think it's like $4 a foot. So not terribly expensive at all. And I'll have a link to these sights. If you haven't seen these yet, we have a bunch of them. We have a great price on them. Check them out. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like it, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to click that bell to get notifications whenever we put out new videos. As always, if you have any questions, you can visit us at lancasterarchery.com.